Hey, City family. Hope you guys are doing well. I just want to be super honest right now. I am really struggling just missing you guys. It's been really long time since we've been together in person, and I tell you what, working and I'm sure it's the same for you. Just doing school and not being able to be together is it's hard. And that's one of the things I've just been thinking a lot about this past week, just with youth group and church and you guys are my people and I miss you and I love you and gosh, you know what? I just want you to know that I'm sure you're over this, but I'm over it too, man. I am really excited for the day when we can start hanging out together in person because. Honestly, I'm just tired of seeing people's face on Zoom and texting and I don't know, phone calls. Like, I just want to be around you guys and I want you to know that I miss you. And so if you're feeling the same way, man, I'm in the same boat. I miss you guys a lot. But you know what? We're still in this season for a while longer, it looks like, but I am really excited because I think this summer, we're going to have some fun together. You know what? I don't know what the restrictions are going to look like exactly for June and July, but I guarantee you we're going to have some things that we're going to do. Even if we have to, be a little socially distanced or whatever when we do those things, man, we're going to have some fun this summer. And I look forward to hanging out with all you guys. So the past 3 weeks, we've been talking about parables that Jesus has that, I've been calling it puzzling parables because sometimes some of the things Jesus says and some of the things that are in the Bible they don't make any sense, right? Because it's a book that was written over 2,000 years ago to a different people from a different time in a different place of the world, different culture. Sometimes it's really hard to understand these stories, and so that's why we've been working through this. But this week we just have one more parable that I want to talk through. This is the fourth one, and I'm really excited about this. You can find this parable in Luke chapter 20, verse 9. This is the parable of the wicked tenants, as my Bible has it. But it's also, I think, a better name for it is the parable of the noble vineyard owner and his son. And so what we're going to do, we're just going to read through this. We're going to talk a little bit about it, and I just have a really specific application for our lives right now in this time, and so I'm excited to share that with you guys. But for now, if you just want to open your Bibles and read along, that would be awesome. So I'm just going to read it, and then we're going to talk about it. And he began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard and let it out to tenants, and went into another country for a long while. When the time came, he sent a servant to the tenants so that they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent another servant. But they also beat him and treated him shamefully and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent yet a third servant. This one they wounded and cast him out of the vineyard. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him." But when the tenants saw him, they said to themselves, "This is the heir. Let's kill him so that the inheritance may be ours." And they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When they heard this, they said, "Surely not." But he, Jesus, looked directly at them and said, "What then is this that is written? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Everyone who falls onto that stone will be broken to pieces, and when it falls on anyone, it will crush him." So this is a little bit of a weird story. So let me give you a little bit of context, a little bit of background on where Jesus is when he's telling this. So Jesus is actually towards the end of his life. This is pretty close to when he's going to be crucified. Jesus is in Jerusalem, and he goes up to the temple, and some of you guys might know the story where Jesus goes into the temple and he drives out all the money changers and he turns tables upside down and he beats everybody out of the temple. and says, all of you guys get out of here. You're missing it. You're selling, you're buying, you're doing all this business when this is a place of worship, not a place to do business. And all of the rulers, the chief priests, and all the really religious people did not like Jesus and his disciples doing this, okay? One thing you do need to know about Middle Eastern people is that they are very, very passionate about their religious sites, right? And so all the chief priests and all the religious leaders gathered together, and they were confronting Jesus. And they were, just kind of they were challenging his authority and questioning him, like, why is he kicking people out of the temple? Who does he think he is, right? And this is the story. Like, Jesus kind of stops them, and then he tells them this story, this parable of this vineyard owner and his son. Okay, so that's like the setting that this story is being told in. And as we read the story, one of the things you'll notice is that it's just really weird. The vineyard owner, he lends out his vineyard to a bunch of guys who are going to take care of it, right? He's like a landlord, and he rents out to some people that are going to live in and take care of the vineyard. So that's essentially what's going on. And then he goes off to a far land. But one of the things that's weird is he sends one servant, and the tenants, they turn him away. They send him back. And that is like a really, really disrespectful, wrong thing. Like, in this culture, the vineyard owner, even though he's in another place, even though he's in a foreign country, he could have sent a message to the local authorities and had these men put in prison or killed for what they did, because this is his land, right? And back then, what these tenants did with these servants and the son, it was a really, really serious offense. But one of the things that's interesting is the landowner, or the vineyard owner, sends one servant, and the servant gets sent away. And then he sends another servant, and it says that they treated him shamefully and sent him away again. And then he sends a third servant, and instead of just sending him away or treating him shamefully, it says they treated him shamefully and then cast him out. And when it says cast him out, that actually implies that there was like a physical altercation there, that there was violence, that they literally threw him out. And what's interesting is there's three servants that are sent, and the first one's just sent away. The second one is mocked and then sent away. And then the third one is beaten, thrown out, mocked, and sent away, right? So it's like escalating. Like, as the vineyard owner sends servants to these guys, they're getting even worse and worse and worse. And one of the things that's weird is that instead of, after the third guy being assaulted and kicked out and mocked and sent back, and instead of getting the local authorities involved and retaliating, which the vineyard owner had every right to do to these wicked tenants, he instead sends his son, unarmed, with no bodyguards, no nothing, to confront these wicked men. And I'm reminded of a story. The country of Jordan is actually it's adjacent to Israel. And there's a story. This was back in the 80s, in the 1980s. Jordan is a monarchy, so they have a king, and the king at this time in the 80s, his name was King Hussein, and King Hussein was leading Jordan in a pretty volatile time, and there was a group of about 75 soldiers that were conspiring against the king, and they were planning. I mean, this is a true story. This was 40 years ago. These group of soldiers were conspiring to overthrow the king and establish their own government. And the king heard about this, and being the king, he could have just retaliated and crushed these men, but he did something really weird instead. Instead of retaliating, he told one of his right-hand guys, he said, "Hey, get a helicopter ready. I'm going to go talk to these guys." So he gets up in the middle of the night, gets in a helicopter, flies over to this housing where these soldiers are, and they don't even know that he's coming, and they're actually having a secret meeting right now, or right then. And the king goes and he lands on top of the building, and he walks down the stairs in the middle of this group of soldiers that were planning to kill him and overthrow the government and take control. And he walks down and he says, "Gentlemen, if you guys go through with this plan that you're planning, you're going to start a civil war. A lot of innocent people are going to die, and I don't want that to happen. So he said, if you're going to do this, just kill me instead and do this peacefully, because I don't want people to die because of me. And what's really interesting, and this is a true story, like I'm not making these up, these soldiers all started weeping in front of the king. And they came up and they were kissing his feet, and they pledged their loyalty to him for life. And why did they do that? The reason they did that is because the king came in and he had every single right to crush them and to be ruthless and to be angry, but he wasn't. He was gracious. Like, he took his anger and he turned it to grace. And that's one of the things that happens in this story, is this vineyard owner sends his servants and they're treated shamefully. And instead of just retaliating, he goes to the furthest extent possible. He sends his own son. And his son is killed by these tenants. And, it's just a weird story, because, I mean, the vineyard owner had every right to crush these wicked tenants, but he didn't. And, we're not really told a lot what happens afterwards. All that we're told is that the vineyard owner, Jesus says he will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. So he sent his son as like this ultimate act of grace, and they still rejected it. It does have like a little bit of a weird ending, and I would love to hear more questions about that. But the thing that I want to dial in on the most is that the vineyard owner sends his son at the end. The vineyard owner sends his son because he is extending every possible avenue of grace to these tenants that he possibly can, just to see if they'll just get on board. But instead they don't. And Jesus is speaking this parable against the religious leaders. Remember, the religious leaders are confronting Jesus, and he's responding to them. And basically he's comparing the wicked tenants to the religious leaders of the day. And he's saying, you guys are missing it. You guys have beaten all of God's servants that have come before me. And here now I am, like Jesus is saying, I'm the son. And they didn't know it yet, but they're about to kill the son, right? And this story is just so characteristic of who our God is. Our God is gracious and compassionate, and he extends grace upon grace upon grace. And so what I want to do right now is I just want to challenge you this week. In this story, the vineyard owner takes anger and he redirects it into grace. And as we're in this time during quarantine, and I'm sure your brothers, your sisters, your mom, your dad, your cousins, I don't know. I mean, times are crazy. People are living with other family members and all these different things. I'm sure you're getting tired of one another. And so what I want to challenge you to do this week, especially this week, this past Sunday was Mother's Day. I mean, why don't we take some time to take the frustration from being quarantined, to take the frustration from being around our family all the time and not getting to see our friends and go outside. Why don't we take that frustration and why don't we turn it into grace? I mean, I'm thinking of something really, really practical. Like, it was just Mother's Day, and maybe if you didn't have a chance, or maybe you just forgot to say thanks to your mom and to love her well, I mean, maybe this would be a great opportunity to give her a phone call, or to do some chores for her, or to tell her to take a night off and you cook dinner. Maybe this is a really, really good week for you to really, really lean in and engage with your brother or sister. That could be just spending some quality time with them where you're just going to commit. Like sometimes I have done this in the past with my brothers, where I just decided before I went to hang out with them that I was going to have a good attitude. And even if they pushed my buttons, I was still going to love them and just enjoy some time with them anyways. And so guys, that's what I want you to think about. Like this vineyard owner, let's take the anger or maybe the frustration, or maybe the annoyance that we might have a right to feel during this weird time, and let's take that and to turn that into something good this week, something God honoring. And so Anyway, guys, just like I said at the beginning, I really miss you, and I really mean it when I say that. I really do. We're still packing up here at my house. We're going to be moving to Parker this summer. So I want you guys to know that, because I'm going to be even closer to you all. So hopefully I'll even have more time to hang out with you once we can. I love you guys. I'm praying for you, and I hope you have a great week.